Hey, what's up guys, it's Uchiha here, back with the next part of What If Naruto Had Asuras Memories. And before continuing this part, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's continue with our story. Previously, greetings Uchiha Sayuri, I am Indra Otsutsuki. But first, let me get rid of the pest. Now we continue. As the man said so, he went to the main hall where a huge glowing purple symbol was struck to the wall. It was three tomos in a circle, a seal of some sort. The man reached into the seal and yanked hard, causing a visualish apparition of Orochimaru to materialize in his hand. Indra uttered, "Begone!" A bright glow enveloped the apparition as it disappeared. "I have just removed Orochimaru's soul from the curse seal, so you are free to use it without any influence or impediment." Her eyes narrowed as she stood up. "Who are you?" The man replied, "Simply put, you are my transmigrant. My father was a great man, the Rukido no Sanin of the legends. When he came to a choice, he chose my brother Asura to become his successor. I was determined to wrangle this power back, for it is my birthright. After I died, my chakra left my mortal vessel and reincarnated into various individuals, including the infamous Uchiha Madara. My brother transmigrant as well into Senju Hashirama, the Shodai Hokage, and Madara's rival. As you can see, both our chakras have reincarnated many times, our feud burning bright and transforming from a clash of ideals to mindless conflicts. In this life, I am you, and I have high hopes for. You must put an end to this feud by ending Asura's life and vanquishing his chakra. You are practically the last of my descendants, as the last Uchiha, so I need you to end this once and for all. But whose might this Asura be in this life?" Sayuri asked, though she had a feeling she already knew the answer. "A boy by the name of Uzumaki Naruto." Indra observed her reaction closely as she winced. "A boy, I see. You know and harbor romantic feelings for. I do share thoughts with you, you know." Sayuri took a step back. "I will not kill him. A thing I can do is to avenge your fallen descendants by killing their killer. I shall end my brother." Indra shook his head. "Ah, Uchiha Itachi. My brother's ideals burn strongly within him." Sayuri was puzzled by this, but let the Otsutsuki continue. "He is a powerful foe, perhaps even stronger than Madara. To kill him, you will need a lot more power. The same power that Uzumaki Naruto possesses. The power of my father. However, you shall be gifted with the yin instead of yang, to hurt instead of heal. Behold the Rinnegan." Sayuri instantly felt a burning sensation in her left eye. "Since you already have the Mangekyo Sharingan, having the Rinnegan will automatically grant you an internal variant." The Uchiha was confused. "What's internal variant?" "You see, the Mangekyo does not last forever. The more you use it, the poorer your vision gets, until you reach total blindness. To mitigate that, transplant a Mangekyo Sharingan of someone close to you. We'll give you the internal Mangekyo Sharingan, which will never see the darkness ever again," Indra explained. "Now let me explain what other powers you get from this dojutsu. The Rinnegan are able to see chakra, as well as its flow within the body, and at least 8 tenketsus. One who possesses the Rinnegan can master any jutsu, as well as all 5 transformation of chakra natures, with ease. Let off all the basic abilities, Rinnegan users are able to create black receivers, to which they can transmit their chakra. Now the Rinnegan specific jutsu, first and most useful, the Heavenly Hand power. I won't go into details, but its basically ability allows you to shift, meaning you switch places with anything within 50 meters of your choosing. If done with air, it appears as teleportation, but clearly swapping is much more useful. You can also swap the position of 2 other things without moving yourself, making this jutsu really versatile." The Uchiha nodded. "Secondly, we have Limbo, Border Jail, a technique which allows you to project up to 5 clones into the invisible world of Limbo. The operation they do are independently, even attacking, defending, or restraining enemies, but they will return to you after 5 minutes, where there is an interval before you can project them again. The shadows are invulnerable to physical attacks, except those with Rikudo Senjutsu. Additionally, only sages and Rinnegan wielders can sense and see them, respectively. Next is 6 path jutsus, comprising of Diva path, Asura path, Human path, Animal path, Petra path, Naraka path, and 7th most powerful and forbidden, Outer path. Indra continued. Tendo allows you to manipulate the force of gravity through 4 jutsus: Almighty Push, Universal Pull, Planetary Devastation, Shattered Heaven. I'll go into detail later. Shurado arguments your body by granting your mechanical limbs, weaponry, and armor, as well as increased physical strength. 2 main jutsus utilizes Chakra Propulsion Cannon and Arm Cannon. Ningendo allows you to read people's mind by pulling out their souls, resulting in their death. You can do this through the Soul Absorption Jutsu. Next, Chikoshodo lets you summon various animals through a single jutsu, Summoning Rinnegan. Every summon is immortal and has properties which makes them unique, such as heads which multiply when they get cut off, or claws which propel jets of water. Some can even use jutsus. The Petra path is only one that you will find yourself using a lot. It enables you to absorb any technique and thus dispel its effect through blocking technique absorption seal, a high advanced funjutsu. A word of warning though, you do not want to absorb a sage's technique, as your body will not be able to handle the natural energy and you will turn into stone. The Jigoto is the last of the 6 paths and allow you to summon the King of Hell for 2 purposes: interrogation and restoration. It grabs the victim's tongue, and if he tells the truth, he will live, albeit paralysis. If he lies, he will die. As for restoring, entering the King of Hell's mouth will restore you to the fullest health, regardless of your injury, replacing your even severe limbs as long as the injury doesn't cause instant death. Even if it does, we have the 7th path. The Outer path is the most powerful of the paths, despite not technically being one of the Rikodo one jutsu. It is the most powerful, which transcends life and death, bringing the death back to the life with the Gero. Rinne Tensei no Jutsu, Outer path, Rebirth Jutsu. You can also summon a powerful entity through Kyochusei Gero Mazo, summoning demonic statue of the Outer path, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. That is all, Indra finished explaining. My yin power, when added to any jutsu, shall immediately amplify its effects and 1000-fold. Do use it wisely. Indra added, lastly, your eyes are indeed unique, as you are the second to awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the first being Madara. Your Rinnegan, unlike the others, possesses the 6 path chakra, so it has 6 tomos on the first 2 ripples. Whenever you overuse the Rinnegan, however, you will lose the tomo for 2 minutes, as well as the EMS, which abilities I will elaborate on now. Indra proceeded to teach her about Amaterasu, Kagutsuchi, Tsukiyomi, Kamui, Kotomatsukami, and Susanoo. By the time he was done, Sayuri was sure this would surely be enough to take down her brother. What's the catch? I am sure there must be some huge drawback for all this power. With my power, you will have enough to eliminate most foes in your way. The only one that can still stand up to you is my brother's vessel. That is the drawback. You eventually have to kill the one you love so dearly. Indra said, then forget about it. I will rid this world of evil, avenge my descendants and your descendants, but I will not vanquish the one I treasure most. You can have your power back, Indra, Sayuri replied decisively. Yoshisuke shrugged. The power is still yours, and it is completely up to you who you wish to kill. I await your choices in life. When you are ready to train, simply think of me. I shall speak with you once more. And he said so. Sayuri felt a tugging sensation as she was pulled away from her mindscape and back to reality. Indra was left there as he stood there thinking, Let's play a game, Ototo. I am sick and tired of our conflict, and I wish to end this as much as you do. So let's see whose beliefs have more influence. My curse of hatred versus your will of fire. Should Sayuri decide to follow your will of fire, I will lose and will never reincarnate again. And converse applies. Let this be our final battle. Asura. Reality. Sayuri's eyes opened, slowly adjusting to the influx in light. It appeared that they were resting in the bottom of a tree trunk. Yes, in it was a huge tree. Sakura's hands were hovering above her wound. Surrounding the area was green light. You're awake, Sakura nodded. Uchiha sat up and noticed Naruto lying beside her. How's Naruto? Asked Sayuri worriedly. He had definitely gone through a lot in that battle with Orochimaru. He's fine, the Haruno replied, removing her hand once the wound had closed completely. His advanced healing factor meant that he recuperated quickly from other injuries. However, his chakra is being blocked by some kind of seal. As for you, you were stabbed from the back till the sword emerged from your ribcage. A very deep wound, but luckily it missed any vital organs, as I think Orochimaru was not aiming to kill you. I've been trying to heal your wound for the past few hours, and my chakra has been drained dry. Please take over watch for me. I'll sleep now. Without waiting for a reply, Sakura lay down on her side and closed her eyes, drained unconsciously. Uchiha stood up and exited the hollow. She stretched her arms and legs as she recalled her encounter with Indra. Now it all made sense. Everything about Naruto was put to light. Suddenly she was hit with a sense of forbidding. Let's test this out, shall we? The Uchiha muttered to herself, channeling her chakra to her eyes. Her left eye spun into a regal purple color, with many concentrated ripples, bringing the pupil. 3 tomos lined each of the first 2 rings. Her right eye bled a vermilion red before the tomo spun and merged, expanding into a inverse red atom model with a black background. Her visual acuity increased 100 times, and even lines appeared everywhere, judging the motion of objects and their trajectory, including forces and resistance. 3 blue flames appeared into the distance, 20 meters away. Quickly approaching, Sayuri's eyes calculated that they were roughly 4 seconds away. The first shinobi burst out of the line of trees, only for Sayuri to raise her hand. Shinra Tensei. An invisible force, though visible exclusively to her eyes, rippled out of her hand, covering a wide area, pushing back everything in its path. So this was the force of gravity. The man was thrown back and hit a tree. He then got up, hacking blood as his 2 teammates arrived by his side. Are you Uchiha Sayuri? The opponent questions. Her eyes glowed, a brilliant red and majestic purple, indicating that the girl was indeed the only one who they were looking for. No shit, his teammate muttered to him while preparing her tools. Let me guess, Orochimaru's lapdogs. The Uchiha remarked coldly. The third Otonin growled, Zaku, show her the power of sound. The first Otonin charged at her, shooting out of his hand, which were wrapped around gauntlets. Ninja art, decapitating airwaves, Zaku shouted, blasting a huge airwave of sound at Sayuri. She could, however, see them clearly, so avoiding them were a merely test of agility. But how can she? Oh, I see, it's her eyes, Zaku said confidently. Sayuri charged at him, engaging him in a vicious one-sided taijutsu battle. Within 7 seconds, she had his arms in a twisted lock. Tugging hard, she twisted it until it broke and rammed her foot in his face. The Konoichi came at her, so she decided to kick Zaku out of the way. Sayuri sidestepped the first attacks. Once the Konoichi landed, she lunged at the Uchiha. The girl ran around Sayuri, seemingly circling her, but in truth was winding a web of ninja wire around her. Of course, Sayuri had no trouble seeing the extremely thin wire and so knew that it was coming. The girl smirking as she stood up, having fully spun the trap. She flickered her fingers, causing sounds to ring of the bells lining the wire. The Uchiha eyebrow twitched. It was insulting that one would try a genjutsu on an Uchiha. Her right eye glowed bright red as the illusion clearly instantly. She took a step forward, phasing through the wires. That is, before she disappeared completely. What? Impossible, the Konoichi cried. She spun around as just Sayuri materialized before her in a swirl. Her wrist flickered out to smack the Uchiha. However, Sayuri caught it by the wrist. She glared deep into her eyes, glancing into her soul. With the very power of her dojutsu, a flame red ball orbited around the Konoichi, pulling ever closer before it orbited closed, and it crushed her, spinning her guts out everywhere. The Uchiha released the girl as soon as she fell unconscious, hitting the floor. Sayuri cast a glance at the remaining shinobi. Ninja Heart! Extreme, decapitating airwaves, the Otonin exclaimed. A huge wind tore from his hands, blasting straight for Sayuri and the three where her friends were resting. Indra's words came to her. Fujutsu Kyuin, she called, thrusting out both of her hands. A whistle aura surrounded her as the air from the jutsu was sucked and funneled into her body, dispersed with a reserve spin. She noticed him disappearing in a sunshine and knew what was coming before he even reached her. His chakra materialized behind her, pulling him along. The Uchiha ducked anticipatingly, rotating on her heel. Her eyes saw where his hands were about to go and rose to block them. The Uchiha's hand flew to his forearms and, in a quick succession, tossing him skywards. Her Chikoto was unsheathed and launched at him. It sailed through the air, swiftly piercing the right side of the chest. Once it flew behind him, Sayuri activated her shifting technique, Ameno de Jikara. I don't know why, but there are many Japanese references here. Sorry about that if you don't like them. Anyway, and on to our story. She uttered, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Her sword replaced her stabs into the ground where she was earlier. She materialized behind him, her hands crackling with fearsome black lightning. Sixth path, Yin style, Chidori, she shouted over the fierce cry of 1,000 birds. With precision, she flew down and struck the man right in his beating heart, tearing a huge chunk of gory flesh out of his body. That sent him to instant death, collapsing before his two teammates, who backed away hesitantly. Here, you can have our scroll, Zaku cried in fear as he dropped his scroll on the floor. Immediately, the Otonin picked up the still unconscious Konoichi and fled for his life, not even turning back for his dead comrade. Sayuri's eyes faded back to their original onyx hue as she discarded the bloody piece of cardiac muscle she had ripped from the Otonin. She walked calmly over to her Chikoto and pulled it from the ground before unsheathing it back. She then picked up the earth scroll and returned to the shade of the huge tree. Naruto was still fast asleep and Sakura was unconscious. She turned on her Rinnegan. Now, she could clearly see the obstruction in chakra flow due to some purple chakra. Slowly, however, it was beginning eating away by some orange chakra, seemingly mending the damage to his chakra circulatory system. That must have been Asuras chakra. So Sakura, on the other hand, had some serious chakra backlash. Her chakra level was life-threatening low, though it was slowly recovering drop by drop. She would need a solid soldier pill if she was able of even thinking that she could move. Sayuri reached into her pouch and withdrew a soldier pill, slipping it into Sakura's mouth. The Haruno's chakra surged suddenly, increasing to half of her natural reserves. Sayuri was impatient, and having two teammates who couldn't move would be a pain. The Uchiha needed at least one teammate to be fully conscious, or they wouldn't make it back to the tower. She clapped her hands together, invoking a summoning array. Outside a tree, purple flames rose from the grass floor as the King of Hell head emerged. It opened mouth, and two appendages shot out, wrapping around the bodies of her teammate. With a tug, it pulled both Naruto and Sakura into its mouth, which shut tight. 5 seconds later, its mouth flew open and her two teammates came tumbling out, conscious. These two stood up slowly, orientating themselves. Naruto looked back and was stunned to see the fierce skull adorned in the King of Hell's head. Silently, it sank into the ground and vanished from the purple flames. What the hell was that? Asked Naruto. Sayuri was tempted to make a pun, but instead pointed to her eyes. New power. Not now is the time to explain. We'll talk once we get to the tower. She flashed the earth scroll temporarily before taking off. Sakura shrugged and followed suit, and as did the blonde Uzumaki. When they neared the center of the forest, Sayuri detected a thin veil of chakra surrounding it. Naruto could sense the disturbance as well. A white, shimmering current of chakra covering the tower. Sayuri brought the Teratsu no In to her face. Kai. Her chakra flared as her eyes saw through the mirage, causing it to dissipate. Instantly, Naruto felt the oppressive chakra vanish into the thin air. Clearly, it had been a genjutsu to weed out those who were about to reach the tower. Though if any team had been through and strong enough, it will make it through there with this merely genjutsu blocking the way. With the tower now inside, Team 7 quickly made their way to the base. They circled it once and realized that there was not a single entrance. Of course, Sayuri could simply blow a hole through the wall, and it was designed for entry to every team of Genins, of which only a few could blow a hole through the wall. Sakura responded, I suppose the only logical solution would be to open the scrolls for after the test. After all, the test revolved around obtaining both scrolls, and there wasn't any rules forbidding the opening the scrolls, so Sayuri nodded and withdrew both scrolls, placing them on the floor. She then unruffled both in cross, revealing a summoning seal array. In a burst of smoke, Iruka appeared. He was surprised to see his former 3 students, but greeted them with a smile. I see, it's you 3. Congratulations, you're the second team to make it after the Suna team. Now step on the seal with me, he instructed. Once they did so, he went through a string of hand seals and a bright light consumed them. Together with the scrolls, they reappeared inside the building. I'm sure you all need to have some well-deserved rest. I shall not disturb you guys any further. Your bunks are upstairs on the 2nd floor. This is the 1st floor, so go get some rest, where all the administration takes place, so you can find any instructions here. After the 2nd exam ends on Friday, the 3rd exam will be held on the arena on the 3rd floor on Saturday. That's all for now, Johnny, Iruka said. Thanks, Iruka-sensei, replied Naruto. The Chunin waved before leaving their company. Sayuri suppressed a yawn before stating, It's getting late. I'm turning in now. Naruto merely nodded along but had an uneasy feeling that something was wrong. Almost like he had forgotten something. Shimate, I left Karen behind, Uzumaki realized in the rush to leave the place. He had not thought of that. Sakura was confused. Who? Naruto explained to 2 of his teammates about his distant relative, whom he had brought home from the lost of sight. Battleground. Sayuri theorized, I didn't sense anyone in the vicinity after the battle. I don't think Sakura did well. She was healing us. Immediately after the battle, either Orochimaru might have taken her away with him for her power. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Kono yaro. He swore, his fist clenched. His eyes flashed orange for a moment before he calmed down. I will get that bastard snake. Calm down, Naruto. We will devise a plan to get her back as possible. But right now, the best we can do is rest, said steady Sayuri. She's right, Sakura added. Yasumi. Sayuri said simply before turning to walk upstairs. Sakura followed suit, leaving Naruto to collect his thoughts before he arrived at the same conclusion. Rest was of paramount importance, and thinking about her would only trouble him. 3rd floor Saturday. It was the 21st of June, the day of the 3rd exams. Naruto could not wait to get home, but it seemed that Sandam had other plans. They were gathered in the arena on the 3rd floor of the tower, a huge hall consisting of a viewing platform which ringed the perimeter of the walls 5 meters above the floor. At one end of the room was a huge statue of the Sandam's hands in the Hitsuju seal. The man himself was clad in his regalia next to his all proctors. Firstly, congratulations to everyone on making it this far. However, since too many teams made it into the 3rd exams, we will be holding a preliminary round as well, DH Hokage announced. Many groaned, especially a certain Nara. A coughing Tokubetsu Jonin spoke. If you don't mind, Hokage-sama, I shall take over the briefing. He turned to the Chunin, hopeful, and continued. I am Gekko Hayate, proctor to the 3rd exam. Before we begin the preliminaries, does anyone wish to leave? At this stage, leaving will not affect your team as a whole, so feel free to do so. Injuries and deaths at this stage are likely, so please take it into the consideration. Kabuto raised his hand and spoke. I gave up. I still haven't healed completely from any injuries of mine. At this, many started to give up. If the 2nd stage was bad, this was worse, as it forced confrontations and each candidate as on their own without teammates to help them. After a while, all but 8 constant were left. Hayate observed the dwindled crowd nonchalantly and asked, Is that all? If so, we shall begin. The remaining people nodded. The proctor pointed to a screen on the wall. Names flashed across it. When it stopped, the first 2 constances were decided. Uchiha Sayuri of Konohagakure versus Akido Yuri of Konohagakure. At announced, the two stayed on the arena ground while the rest made their way to the platform. The rules are simple. When I say start, start. When I declare a winner, the match is on halt immediately, regardless of how close you are to killing your opponent, which by the way is discouraged. Failure to observe the rules will result in disqualification. Is that clear? Hayate asked. Both nodded as they sized up the opponent. If there is nothing else, Hajime, the Tokubatsu Jonin declared. Jumping back, Yoroi burst into a spirit towards Sayuri, who stood there, her eyes blood red, with trauma spinning into a wrapped pattern in her right eye. Her left eye was ringed, turning a deep purple color. She waited calmly as Yoroi lunged at her, observing how chakra was gathering in his right hand. As soon as he landed within her range, Sayuri took a step back and brought up her arm to block the strike. His right hand puzzled with chakra upon coming in contact with her skin, but not visible. Effect occurred, leading her to the conclusion that it was a passive technique. With her Rinnegan, she noticed how some chakra had been siphoned and transferred to him through his hand. So, his ability was to absorb chakra. Shinra Tensei, a vicious force, picked up Yoroi and tossed him away, also cracking the floor in a 10-meter radius around him. The match was about to be as one-sided as it could get. Her Rinnegan glowed as a bright purple before she disappeared, reintegrating behind Yoroi. With a powerful kick, she lunged the Konoha cannon towards the ground. Before he could hit it, though, an invisible force caught it and restrained him. Rinbo and Goku, she intoned as she walked towards her shadow, which currently held the man, trying to escape. If this is a competition to see who can absorb chakra, well, let's see how far this can go. Sayuri whispered to him, who was struggling feebly to break out of the grip of the shadow. Funjutsu, Kyuin. A visualish aura in the shape of bubble wrapped around her hand. She thrusted her palm towards Sayuri, causing these chakra to start flowing into her at an immeasurable pace. Within seconds, the Konoha face began to pale visibly, the effects of chakra loss beginning to show, the blue flame representing his chakra presence diminishing rapidly until a tiny spark was left. It was only then that the Uchiha stopped her jutsu out of mercy for her fellow shinobi, her shadow vanishing, causing the man to slump and crash onto the floor abruptly. Sayuri didn't even bother waiting for walking away. Winner, Sayuri Uchiha. Next, Aburamashino of Konohagakure versus Akamichi Choji of Konohagakure. That announced without coughing. As both of they made their way down, medic arrived quickly and carried Yoroi away on a stretcher. Sayuri walked to the platform and contemplated on her performance earlier. Hajime, as both her ex-teammates exchanged in the spar she watched on a while, her mind was really drifting away. She had purposely chosen not to stand next to her teammates to prevent any interruptions from her thoughts. The Rinnegan. It was certainly a great power boost to her arsenal. A powerful tool, however, judging from the match earlier, this power had made her arrogant. Her pride as an Uchiha had made it hard to admit this, but she had overcome the blindness that pride brought to her. Though Yoroi was indeed a weak opponent, the arrogance would only serve to make her understate potentially dangerous enemies. This could prove fatal, thus she was really needed to keep this arrogance in check. Sayuri-chan, why don't you join us? Naruto's voice rang suddenly. She resisted the urge to facepalm. So just because she didn't go to them, you dragged Kakashi and Sakura over instead? Well, she couldn't say it was totally unexpected. Come in, I had a lot on my mind. Sayuri explained. Kakashi raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Shosha, Aburamashino! Team 7 turned to the sudden announcement, realizing that the match had ended. Choji laid flat on the floor, bugs flying off from his body and returning to the hooded Aburame. As Mari carried the obese shinobi away, Hayate continued. Next up, we have Tsurugi Misume from Konohagakure versus Sabuko no Kankuro from Sunagakure. Hajime, one of the proctors, leapt back. Misume did not hesitate to lunge at the Sunanin ninja, sidestepped in initial pounce and pulled the grab package from his back. Sayuri mused, this would be a great opportunity to witness the Kugutsukai at work. We see how his puppet functions. With that, she activated her dojutsu to observe the match. She gasped but quickly recovered into a smirk. What an interesting strategy he had. Kankuro set the package down and jumped away, followed closely behind by Masumi. A brief taijutsu clash ensued before Masumi brought him into a stranglehold. A series of cracks and snaps were heard as the Konoha dislocated his own joint through a jutsu, granting him inhumane flexibility. You have lost, concede, or I will break your neck. Misumi threatened. Suddenly, Kankuro's mouth opened increasingly wide before closing. The occurred repeated, creating a haunting clacking sound which sounded like a maniacal laughter. The wrapped package burst, revealing the real Kankuro. However, well, we'll see about that, he said. He gestured his hands rapidly, his fingers swinging dexterously while manipulating the threads of chakra attached to the Kankuro in Masumi's clutches. Kankuro broke into multiple pieces, breaking out of his grip and revealing wiring, machinery, and gears within. So this is what a puppet looks like. Naruto thought, recalling the time Kankuro almost used Karasu on the streets. The Sunanin smirked before closing his fingers. The puppet resembled, trapping Masumi within the wooden and metallic body. Now I'll break your bones since you seem to like dislocating them so much. With that, he closed his fist, the chakra threads collapsing, bringing the puppet together with a sickening snap. The proctor paused for a second till he determined there was no longer any movement from the puppet's inside. Shosha, Sabuko no Kankuro. The Sunanin smirked before gesturing the fingers, causing the puppet to snap open and return to his side. The crumpled form of Misumi fell to the floor, and medics began to carry him away. The screen on the wall flashed with the name once again. Haruno Sakura of Konohagakure versus Ino Yamanaka of Konohagakure. The two girls were shocked as they realized who their opponent was. The face turned into a look of determination upon realizing that this was their chance to prove once and for all who was better. Both Konomichi started to stare at each other instantly. Once they reached the arena floor, Hayate looked at the two of them before announcing, "Hajime!" The two launched themselves at each other. Engaging in the taijutsu brawl, Naruto raised an eyebrow as he observed his ex-classmates fight. Clearly, taijutsu was neither of their forces, yet they were still chose to do it. Ino had a proper upper hand in ninjutsu due to the clan of her. That was for sure. Sakura only had medical ninjutsu, and that would doom her if she couldn't end this match quickly. Ino gripped Sakura's arm and tossed her into the floor, where she recovered and flipped over to the Yamanaka while firing off multiple projectiles. The blonde girl dodged them, catching the last one and sending it back to Sakura. The Haruno barely avoided it, getting a scrape on her arm. Sakura brought her other hand over the wound and her palm glowed green as it closed. Everyone above was marveled as it was rare to see medical ninjutsu employed by a match. The Haruno re-entered the battle, and the two childhood friends continued to fight on rough, equal grounds. To be honest, it was not even a eventful match. That was, however, only one exiting instant where Ino used her clan Shinten no Shinjutsu on Sakura. Surprisingly, she managed to break out of it. Eventually, the Tokonomichis had tried each other to fight and tired each other out in the result, and went for a final punch, which knocked out both of them simultaneously. The proctor looked at both of the bodies before sighing. As both contestants are unable to continue, both are double knocked out. I consider this match a draw. The fifth match is Tenten of Konohagakure versus Sabuko no Temari. Hajime, this time the match was much more eventful. Tenten mastery of Bikojutsu was astounding. Unfortunately, she was matched with the wrong opponent. As Naruto Sayuri was guessed, the Tensen on Temari's back was used to execute fin techniques, which easily countered any of the weapon specialist techniques. This advantage led to the Sunanin's victory as she ended the match with a powerful futon jutsu. Naruto winced as the Tenten plunged from the midair and hit the floor. Her arms covered her numerous lacerations. Shosha, Sabuko no Temari. Next we have Nara Shikamaru of Konohagakure versus Tsuchiki no Photogakure. The lazy Nara ground at having to move his ass, especially to fight a girl. On the other hand, said opponent was rather excited and ready to fight. Those who knew Shikamaru well were aware that he already had 100 plans swirling in his head, waiting for the right combination to set one off, even as he strolled down the stairs. When he finally got to the floor, Hayate announced, "Hajime!" The Nara observed his opponent lazily as he charged at him. At the last possible moment, he dodged to the side, she spun around and began a barrage of punches and kicks which he countered by one. Finally, she managed to get one past his guard and launched a kick to his stomach, throwing him back. Shikamaru rolled to a stop and got up, just in time to see her flickering several senbons at him. Without much effort, the Nara evaded the airborne needles which surrounded him with ninja wires. Once they planted themselves into the wall and floor, attached to these wires were small miniature balls and bells. The Nara raised an eyebrow as he watched his opponent from a hand sign. Suddenly, the bells began to ring, emitting a sound reminiscent of the wind chime. Shikamaru's vision blurred as he started seeing double. This left him unable to see the coming attacks. Multiple senbons pierced through his body, causing him to fall on one knee. As he was transformed into a punctuation, the attack stopped as King taunted. "Is that all the best you can do, Nara? I'm heard of the famed Shadow Possession Jutsu. Where it is now?" Shikamaru paused before raising his head slowly. Plastered on his face was smirk. "You asked for it." All of a sudden, Kin was paralyzed, unable to move. But how? She was sure that she was out of her range of his clan technique, and given that he was only a genin, being 15 meters away should be sufficient. The details came to her mind as she groaned internally as realization hit her. The shadows of the wires linked her to the senbons around with were jet black, infused with the Inton chakra by Shikamaru, so he had apparently used the natural shadow of the wires between him and her to extend the range of his technique. She wanted to snarl, but she couldn't, so she settled for scowling at him. Inara said simply, "I Suchikin." She found herself forced to repeat after him, "Forfeit this match." On the last three words left her mouth, the proctor nodded in acknowledgement of the declare. "Shosha, Nara Shikamaru." The spectators applauded, especially from Konoha. The competitor's strategy was brilliant, as expected from the clan had from Nara. Hayate looked at the screen as it flickered again. Seventh match, Uzumaki Naruto of Konohagakure versus Inuzuka Kiba of Konohagakure. The two former classmates and rivals looked up at each other smiling as they descended to the stairs to arena. As they faced each other, Naruto voiced out, "Give me your best shot, Kiba." The Inuzuka smirked and replied, "I will you too, Naruto." The Ninken by side yelped in agreement. Sayuri voiced militant concern, given Naruto powers would have the triumph over Kiba within seconds. At the same time, she knew that his honor and his love for his friends would make him not use his inheritance, for he was aware of its vast power. The Uchiha sighed. Naruto. Her heart ached once more at the thought of him. Naruto's hand went to the back of his cloak, returning to the front of his body after detaching the celestial cloud-gathering sword and it sheathed from its belt. Holding the sheathed sword in his hand, Naruto brought his right hand to his chest and formed a seal of confrontation. The Uzumaki smiled gently. Kiba respectfully mirrored his friend, grinning as well. Hayate eyed the two and announced, "Hajime." As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. Peace.